Simulacra. I woke too quickly as if a thought cracked a seal and all the air rushed back into the room. Not the tidy kind of awakening, not the kind that ends with certainty, a violent little clarity like a bulb flaring in an empty hallway and showing dust. You did not know you were breathing. I have been calling it simulacra because I do not have a better word yet, because naming is a way of holding a thing still long enough to listen to it. What if every person is you, not you as in your biography, not you as in your habits and topography and your name, but you as in the same source of light refracted into different colors, different temperatures of soul, each one poured into literal bodies like lamps fitted into incompatible shades? I know how unfounded this is. That is not the point. The point is that it feels like a hinge. Consciousness, for example, people speak as if it is a shared room with different furniture, as if we all walk in, nod, agree on the walls, and then argue about the placement of a table. But what if we do not share the room? What if we share only the address? What if each person is a weather system moving through the same street? What if your noon is my midnight? What if my sky is your underground? What if we pass each other like two radio stations crossing briefly and mistaking the static for understanding? I walk by people every day and I call that ordinary. But what if I am doing something impossible with the ease of a habitual lie? What if the person I walk by does not look like that? What if my eyes asked something of them and my mind, eager to keep the world coherent, answered the request with a face it could afford? A face that fit the story, a face that did not threaten the pattern. What if my seeing is not a window but a contract? What if perception is a soft bureaucracy stamping reality with approvals and denials at the speed of breath? And then the question splits into more questions, like light through a prism, like a single chord struck and the overtones taking the room. What if we look different to different people, even while we remain the same body, the same skin, the same bones? What if your version of me is taller by a kind word you needed? What if your version of me is sharper by a fear you brought? What if someone else's version is blurred on purpose for mercy, for survival, for the maintenance of their private world? What if there is no single portrait of anyone, only a gallery of renderings, each one faithful to the renderer? What does that make me then? Walking around with a face that is only partly mine, wearing expressions that belong to other people's histories like borrowed coats. I have wondered too about peace and despair, how they could possibly coexist without tearing the street in half. But what if they do? What if the greatest peace is happening 6 steps to the left of me, in a world someone is building without knowing it? What if the greatest despair is happening right alongside it, in another world equally complete, equally convinced of its own rules? 2 oceans in the same glass, 2 hymns in the same air, a hospital and a festival sharing one intersection and never touching. This is not difficult to say. That is what frightens me. The idea is enormous, yet the language carries it, like it is a small thing, like a pebble you can keep in your pocket. Maybe that is how the mind protects itself, by making infinity sound conversational. I keep circling back to the lenses, the ones given to us by the simulation we breathe within, the ones we do not choose but inherit, like eye color, like accent, like a certain definition of normal, handed down through screens, through classrooms, through streets with invisible bylaws. These lenses correct and soften, they smoothen rough edges into meaning, pointillist, they translate chaos into pattern and call them comfort. They tell us what a person is, what a body implies, what a glance means, what a silence must be hiding. They are kind sometimes, they are cruel sometimes, they are efficient almost always. And I wonder what we look like without them. Not in the romantic sense, not as some pure truth waiting patiently behind the curtain, but in the raw, unedited sense of an image before the algorithm learns your preference. What does a face become when you stop asking it to support the scaffolding of your day? What does a street become when you do not force it to behave like a story with a beginning and a lesson? What do you become when you are not reduced to what someone else's world needs from you to remain stable? Because stability is not neutral, it costs something. And I have started to suspect that what we give up in people is rarely taken from them directly. We surrender them quietly like loose change. We trade their complexity for a version we can carry. We compress their vastness into a symbol that fits our sentence. We keep the parts that confirm our map and discard the parts that threaten it, as if they were debris, as if they were not the person. Maybe this is the secret violence of ordinary living, not hatred, not even disregard, just the constant necessity of making everyone make sense fast enough. I do not want to resolve the prism back into a beam. I only want to stand here in the split light, that the world I live in might be only one rendering among countless renderings, that my certainty might be a translation, that my eyes might be a style of asking. And if every person is a version of me and I am a version of them, if we are all the same source of light fractured into different colors of soul, then maybe the spiritual task is not to unify the colors or to declare one true shade. Maybe the task is to stop confusing my lens for the thing itself, to walk past strangers and feel for a moment the trembling possibility that I am not seeing them, I am seeing what my world can tolerate. And then to keep walking, not in despair, not in peace, not in peace, but in the strange in-between where both could coexist and exist, and neither cancels the other, where every face is a doorway, and I am learning, finally, to knock. Thank you.